Very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of Stuart Close Philosophy, and we have started discussing about the first chapter, that is the psychological point of view. This chapter is dedicated for the neophytes to the homeopaths who wants to achieve the success, and that's why he has started his book with this chapter, that the psychological point of view looking towards the homeopathy. The concept was very clear in his mind, and that's why he started over there that homeopathy has twofold existence as a personal practitioner as well as the institutional or organizational method. Out of which, if being a personal practitioner, if you want to achieve success, what thing which matters a lot is nothing but the efficiency. And he says over there it is directly proportional to your efficiency. And efficiency is based upon basically three factors. First is the native ability. The second is the acquired technical proficiency. And number three, which he defines over there, logical consistency in its application of uh, practical application of its principles. And these three things he has elaborated, and at the same time he says over there are four more qualities one must have. First is that the honesty, the second is courage, third is the fidelity to high ideal, and fourth one is that right point of view. So these are all important things which he tried to explain over there in order to achieve the success. And he was explaining those things one by one. The last paragraph where he says that if you really want to achieve the success over there, one must be very clear understanding about the subject. If it is there in your mind, then you can apply that practically in the patient, that knowledge. And then this scientific system of medicine has a lot to do with the suffering humanity. It has the capacity to cure even difficult pathologies if these things or these qualities are there with you. And with that specific point, we have stopped yesterday on the page number 3. We have to start with next paragraph. And before that, last sentence, which he has mentioned over there, is very important. As a scientific system, it is made up of certain facts, laws, rules, and methods or processes, each of which is an integral part of the whole. And this line itself is very important. This system is a scientific, at the same time, it is based upon the facts, it is based upon laws, it is based upon rules, it is a specific method and process, and that whole constitutes the homeopathy. It is not just a thought or speculation. It is not at all there with the homeopathy. Homeopathy is a complete system of medicine based upon all those things. And then he says, nothing conflicting with its established principles can be added to it, nothing taken away if it is to stand in its integrity. So there is no question of conflict. There is no question of taking the opinion of others. If you are damn sure about your knowledge, if you are damn sure about the principles of Organon, if you are damn sure about the materia medica, if you are damn sure about your diagnosis, and if you are damn sure about the case taking, then there is no question of taking the opinion. Just apply the law of stimulus and you can achieve the cure. So there is no question of conflict. Once it is determined what these essential elements and principles are, homeopathy must stand or falls as a whole. So if you understand those concepts very clearly, all the laws, the law of similars, the law of simplex, the law of minimum dose, the doctrine of vital force, the doctrine of drug proving, the doctrine of drug dynamization, and the doctrine of chronic diseases, these 7 cardinal principles of homeopathy, if they are fixed in your mind and you have thoroughly understood them, and then it is the time to practically apply in the patient. That's all. You don't have to do anything else. And then definitely you can achieve the success. But even though after having all those things, still homeopathy doesn't have that much of existence at present in the society. Why is homeopathy is not having this? The reasons he has mentioned in next paragraph, and this is the state of homeopathy at present. And we are responsible for that. What he says is very important. A homeopathy is a lame, crippled thing, compelled to sustain itself by crutches, splints and braces. Mutilated, chinna vichinna झालेली. It is because why it is so? That part he elaborates over there. And emasculated means which doesn't have a muscle strength. Uh, an emasculated homeopathy is an impotent homeopathy without the virility necessary to maintain or reproduce itself. Some short-sighted, superficial, and weak-skinned individuals actuated by their prejudices and through their failure to comprehend the subject as a whole, have adopted an emasculated homeopathy for themselves and attempted to support their crippled enunch. Enunch means a man without testes, crippled enunch as a candidate for general acceptance. So what he is saying, it is we are responsible if we don't study clearly, and this is what is happening. We are not clear regarding the diagnosis. We are not clear regarding the clinical examination. We are not clear regarding the clinics. I have seen that many colleges, there are no clinics. How can we learn the clinical aspects of the patient and how can we apply the homeopathy over there and how can we achieve the results? If it is the condition, then how homeopathy will have existence? How do you fantasize that homeopathy will be the number one system of medicine? This mutilated homeopathy or emasculated homeopathy, what is the reason? Because it has been not taught the way it should be taught. It has been not explained to the students that how one should go ahead with the clinical examination and its correlation with the materia medica. No one goes for it. No one teaches this and no one knows it. If the homeopath himself doesn't know all those things, how can he achieve the success in the cases and how can homeopathy will be there as a number one system of medicine? And this is what he is explaining. This is the point which you have to look for. So the psychological point of view, looking towards the homeopathy with all the aspects and taking into consideration what we can do better for homeopathy. Some short-sighted, superficial, weak-skinned individuals, actuated by their prejudices and through their failure to comprehend the subject as a whole, have adopted an emasculated homeopathy for themselves and attempted to support their crippled enunch as a candidate for a general acceptance. Subjects such as the life force, the single remedy, the potentiation, infinite stimulus, the minimum dose, and the totality of symptoms as the basis for prescription, they have characterized as unessential so long as the principle of similia was maintained. So those people who practices homeopathy, many of them, they were all those things what Hahnemann have explained in these cardinal principles. And if you don't know, and if you try, and if you do just gambling, applying medicines on the basis of one indication, how can you be successful? And who is going to get blamed? It is not you will going to get blamed. It is the homeopathy will going to get blamed. Sub, they do not perceive that each of these doctrines is logically drawn from and inseparably connected with one fundamental doctrine which they profess to accept and apply. It is this which has brought homeopathy as an institution down to the point where its very existence is threatened. Hahnemann, this Close has written 100 years back. And what is the condition of homeopathy in even today? There are a number of colleges in Maharashtra. And still, what is the condition of homeopathy? The same thing happens. What Close has said 100 years back, the same condition is there at the organization level, institutional level. The students are not getting taught, not getting the knowledge of clinics. They don't have how to examine the pulse. They don't know how to interpret the pulse. They don't know how this pulse is given in detail in the repertory. In fact, if we just learn the pulse by heart and just open the repertory, we can treat many individuals. So much big rubric is pulse in our repertory, and there are varieties of pulse mentioned over there. But we don't know how to take the pulse. This is the problem. How can homeopathic will go ahead? How can homeopathy will achieve the success, the desired success? And that's why the very existence of homeopathy has been fallen at this specific level. And that's why the last sentence which he mentions in this, it is this which has brought homeopathy as an institution drawn to a point where its very existence is threatened. So the existence of homeopathy is threatened because it has been not taught the way it should be taught. And that's why, even though very scientific system of medicine based upon seven cardinal principles never came into a perfect existence because of all those methods. So see how he looks toward the homeopathy, both the aspects, on one side the plus points of homeopathy, at the same time limitations of homeopathy, and why those limitations happens. Every aspect he tries to explain. Then he says, within its sphere, homeopathy is entirely adequate to meet all its own problems in its own way when it is practiced in its purity and entirety. Underline the sentence, first word, within its sphere. What is within its sphere? Means within its spheres, means within its horizons where their disorders are dynamic. Homeopathy has very wonderful role, and homeopathy can cure a variety of cases over there, even though it looks pathologically advanced case. So it depends upon that, but one must know where, what to treat and what not to treat. We don't know that. Close has written a separate chapter for that, the scope of homeopathy. So within its sphere, homeopathy is entirely adequate to meet all its own problems with its own way when it is practiced in its purity and entirety. So if you practice homeopathy in purity, means according to the cardinal principles of homeopathy and knowing everything, then definitely you will going to achieve the success, you will going to get the results. But homeopathy will fail if it is forced outside and beyond its real sphere, and if it is perverted and emasculated. If the patient of cleft palate comes and patient is asking homeopathic remedy, and if you are giving homeopathic remedy, it means that you are, what you are going out of horizon, out of scope of homeopathy, not knowing that this is not the place where homeopathy is useful. It is the duty of you to tell the patient this is a purely surgical case. It never, no remedy can clear that cleft palate. Secondarily, homeopathy can be used after surgery in order to heal that wound which is sutured. But at that specific time, it doesn't play any role. So this is very important to understand where is the scope of homeopathy and where homeopathy will not going to work. To know the true sphere and limitations of homeopathy is as necessary to practical success as to know its technique and resources. So first important point, you must know whether it is our field to treat the patient with homeopathy or not. If yes, then the next question comes. If it is not, there is no question of next thing. So if it is yes, then what he says, then if you want to achieve the success, you must know its technique and processes. What do you mean by technique? We have learned the technique in yesterday's lecture. Technique means everything. Technique is nothing but the technique of case taking, the technique of communication, technique of getting attached with the patient, technique of understanding the patient as a whole. These are all techniques which you have to develop. So these are very important thing and resources that from where you will going to get the case and what, which are the different resources through which you will understand the diseased human being. All the resources you have to understand. In fact, one thing I will let you know, unless and until homeopathy is there in your brain, you will not going to look towards patient with that mind. Then whenever you watch the TV and any serial, you can watch, yes, this is this, he looks like lycopodium, he looks like sepilinum, she looks like sepia. It automatically comes to your mind if you are completely thinking with the homeopathy. And that much thought should born in your mind, and then definitely you are going to produce the success. So this is how one must develop. Then success is there. Mere formal knowledge of the law of cure and technique of prescribing does not make a homeopathic physician in the true sense of the word. Very important. If you know the law of similars and you know specifically technique of prescribing, that is not sufficient. That will not going to cure, or that will not going to produce success in the patient. More than that which is necessary. And what more than that is, he explains over there, something more than that is needed. Into that cold and inert body, the breath of life must be breathed before it becomes a living soul. That's why I used to say that Close is a poet. He is having that specific language. He always writes it in metaphorical, fantastic language. So what he says, this is very important. This is what I was telling just now. Into that cold and inert body, the breath of life must be breathed before it becomes a living soul. Unless and until that spirit of homeopathy enters in your body, it will not become active to think in a homeopathic manner. Your every breath should be of homeopathy. Homeopathy is the spirit as well as body of rules and principles, and the spirit must be incarnated. Incarnated means अंगात घालणे, घुसवणे, अंतर्भूत करणे, incarnated in every true believer and follower. So your life should become of homeopathy. Every thought become homeopathy. It is not just only a medical science, it is the way of life. Once you start learning homeopathy, then you will become more and more thorough human being. This is my understanding. This is what I am, my experience. Not understanding, it is my experience. Day by day, I am becoming more and more human because of I am understanding more and more. But still, I feel that I have understood very less. This is the sphere. This is the space of homeopathy. This is where we have to look for homeopathy, and this is the way with which you have to look psychologically towards the homeopathy. That incarnation takes place when the mind of the neophyte is open to the philosophical truth which underlie both the method and the principles, and he becomes imbued. Imbued means बुडून जाणे. Imbued, it is always the complete thought. He becomes imbued with the desire and the purpose to make them the ruling influence of his life. See the very important words he is saying. This is for all students, neophyte, all students. So this thought and spirit of homeopathy should be there in your mind. If it enters inside your mind and your every thought looks like a homeopathic thought, then definitely you're going to accept and learn, and more experience you can take about the homeopathy, and you can successfully apply the homeopathy. So this is big science, vast science, which gives a lot of things in your life. And only thing is that we have to go on learning and learning and learning. So this is what the close is saying. The first chapter, psychological point of view. Unless and until you learn homeopathy by heart, it is not possible to achieve the success over there. Methods of adapting and applying the principles have changed to some extent as the scope and technique of prescribing have been developed. But homeopathy is essentially the same today that it was 100 years ago. Individual practitioners, nominally followers of Hahnemann, have drifted away from his teaching and method. Some have attempted to inject into or graft upon homeopathy all sorts of fads and fancies, but the mongrel thing thereby created devices, deceives no one who has derived his knowledge from the fountainhead. Homeopathy is as set forth by the Hahnemann, while not perfect, is complete in all essentials as system. It is supreme within its legitimate sphere because it is the only method of therapeutic medication which is based upon fixed and definite law of nature. So what he is explaining over there, the why homeopathy is going or it not getting that value, because people came with different fads and fancies. Even today, there are many fancies regarding the homeopathic prescription. People are going away what Hahnemann have taught. People are not understanding what is Hahnemannian thought and what are the cardinal principles of homeopathy. There are many fads. Someone says says there is a homeopathy, you just prescribe on miasm. Someone says you must prescribe on just temperament. Someone says you must find it out genetic constitution. Someone says that sensation is most important. What is this? This is nothing but just there was a one tale that is a big elephant is there and there were seven blind peoples. They touches one part of it and they say elephant is like that. And this is how the peoples are doing. And because of which homeopathy is not achieving the success what it should actually. He's criticizing this aspect, even though this is the supreme system of medicine, because it is the only system of medicine which has specific cardinal principles and which are very fixed, never changing. But still, it doesn't have achieved what it should achieve. And it is only because it has not been practiced within its legitimate sphere. People are doing or going away from the sphere, not knowing exactly where to utilize homeopathy and fails, and homeopathy is blamed. This is the problem where the homeopathy fails. So this is what he is explaining over there, that if you want to achieve the success in homeopathy, you must know its legitimate sphere. At the same time, you must be imbued with the spirit of homeopathy. The validity of this law has been disputed by the dominant school of medicine ever since it was first promulgated by Hahnemann, but it has never been denied by anyone who has complied with all the conditions necessary for the scientific demonstrations of its verity. To comply with those conditions in good faith and test the matter is to be convinced. So there was lot of controversy, there was lot of criticism on Hahnemann when he introduced the law of similars. There were people who have criticized without experimenting the law with their patients or without applying it in the patient. Just logically, they says, how can it be? This is not the way, this is not the method. All those things. What Hahnemann says and what Close says, that unless and until you clinically verify or unless and until you experimentally verify, you should not blame the homeopathy. If after experimentation, if you don't find it out of the truth, then there is a chance that you can say or you can deny the things. So this is what he is explaining. This is the way with which you have to approach. And what he says further in the next paragraph, it is conceivable and probably true that one reason for rejection of homeopathic principle is that the principle, as usually stated, has never been fully understood. And this is the reason people have not understood exactly the homeopathic principles. It is fact that most, if not all, of the attempts, with an exception to be brought forward later, to state the principle have been faulty. Analysis and comparison have not been carried far enough in most cases to clearly identify the principle and its relation and establish homeopathy in the circle of sciences where it belongs. Question is that even today we are not doing the way it should, we are not doing the research actually we should do. We must analyze, we must compare, we must follow the modern methods, and with that modern methods, if we try to put homeopathy in front of the people, then people will understand and people will follow the homeopathy. It because they have not understanding exactly what homeopath wants to say and what is exactly the concepts of dynamics, etc. Unless and until you tell them your science in their own words, in their own way, you cannot. You never keep your data complete and you cannot show it to the people. How can they believe? If you keep your data and you show that yes, this much of cases I have treated with homeopathy and this much of cases I have kept as a, for comparison treated with allopathy, and this is the difference between the homeopathic treatment and allopathic treatment, and these are the results. If you analyze, if you tell the patient, the people's, this scientific aspect of analysis and comparison, and then coming to the conclusion, then people start believing. Otherwise, they never. And this is the problem why dominant school have not accepted homeopathy, and even today they are not accepting the homeopathy. It is now high time to go ahead with the methods, modern methods, to show the existence of homeopathy and compare it with the results of allopathy, and then you can definitely be claim your success in front of the world. So I think it's better to stop over there. Tomorrow we'll continue with this chapter. This chapter is a wonderful chapter which gives you many ideas regarding the homeopathic aspects. So this is the point. On this point we'll leave today, and tomorrow we'll continue. Today there will be no Materia Medica session. Tomorrow we'll continue with the Materia Medica session. So that's all for today. Thank you and good evening, everybody.
Thank
And
you very much, sir.
those who have not attended the spinal canal disorder session, it is available on the YouTube. Go through that. It is a big session, but my suggestion is that learn that where I have tried my level best to correlate modern science with the homeopathy. And if we understand that aspect, then that will be more beneficial for treating your patients. So my suggestion is that go through that specific seminar. Thank you.
Sure, sir. We'll go through,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Thank you.